Hey, Scott Sambucci here over at Sales Qualia, and it's time to talk about sales accelerators. So, if you've been watching any of the LinkedIn Lives I've been doing lately, we have been running through the 9 sales accelerators. These are the 9 sales accelerators. These are 9 core systems that every startup, and frankly, every company, but in particular, every startup needs to build and implement in order to get a more predictable, repeatable, scalable sales process. And so today what I want to talk about is sales accelerator number 6, sales accelerator number 6. And so just for context, to kind of give you a sense for where we are with the sales accelerators, these are the outside of this model are the 9 sales accelerators. So we have 3 core parts of your sales process. There's your prospecting, which is how you're finding leads and new prospects. Then you've got your sales pipeline, which is, of course, now you've got a deal, and how do you march that deal through your sales pipeline through to conversion? And then, of course, you have your paying customers and implementation. And so the 9 sales accelerators are the 3 systems around each of these 3 pillars that, as I said, every startup needs to implement in order to grow and scale, to get a repeatable, scalable sales process. And what we're going to be talking about today is down here under momentum maintainers. So specifically, we're going to be talking about those deals that once they get into your sales process, how do you keep momentum? How do you answer objections? How do you get deals that stall out? How do you get them unstuck, as I like to say? And so the place I want to start with this is getting really clear about what are the 4 main stages of the enterprise sale, the 4 stages of the enterprise sale. Because what most CRMs that I see, or most CRMs that you might buy out of the box, they already have pre-built stages of the sale. And what the mistake that most companies make is that the way that they have those CRMs set up, the way that they have the sales stages set up for their tracking is actually the opposite of what it should be. Because those stages that have been set up in a CRM are typically the places where deals actually stall out. So let me explain what are the actual 4 stages of the sale, and then we're going to talk to you about the 4 stall points in every sale and the mistake that most salespeople make, most companies make when it comes to building out their enterprise sales process. So the 4 stages of the sale, these come from a guy named Neil Rackham. So some of you that have read some of the sales literature over the years, you might recognize this name, Neil Rackham. So Neil is the author of Spin Selling, which is a book that came out probably about 30 years ago, and to high acclaim, and a lot of enterprise salespeople have read that book. And Neil actually wrote a second book called Major Account Sales Strategy. And in that book, and if you don't know Neil Rackham's work, he is a very data-driven person. So through hundreds and thousands of observations, he analyzed what makes for the best sales calls in spin selling. And then in Major Account Sales Strategy, what he did through thousands of observations is identify what are, in fact, the right approaches. What is the right sales strategy for the enterprise sale? And what he found through these observations is that there are actually 4 main stages of the sale. So let me describe those, and then we'll go through the stall points and why momentum maintainers, why having a system for overcoming objectives, why stall deal strategies are so important. So the 4 stages of the sale, the first one is, and really kind of think about this from the buyer's standpoint. Like, these are the stages that the buyers go through. The first stage that buyers go through is needs analysis. So what are they doing? Anytime a problem crops up in their business, they assess their needs. They say, okay, well, what is the problem here? How big is the problem? Is this a problem that we want to take action on? Is this a now thing? Is it a later thing? How do we prioritize this need relative to all of the other strategies, all of the other problems that we could be solving here at our business, right? So that's stage number 1, is needs analysis. Stage number 2, from the buyer standpoint, is then they move into the second stage, which is called evaluation of options. And this is something, as a salesperson, you've probably encountered before, because as you're talking to your prospects and you ask them, hey, what are some of the solutions that you might be considering? What they'll tell you is there are options that they are evaluating, right? They might be looking at competitors. They're obviously talking to you, but they have other options available as well, right? They might talk to the IT team, and it's a buy versus build decision. They might talk to consultants, and they just might bring in some outside help and handle the problem or solve the problem with an outside consultancy. They may choose to do nothing, right? They may choose to say, you know what, actually, after we've analyzed the problem and we've looked at the options, we've decided not to take action on this problem, or they just push the decision of that problem down the road, right? So they're evaluating a multitude of different options. And after they've evaluated those multiple options, then they start to narrow down from the wide breadth of different ways they could solve this problem, or the different roads that they could take, whether to take action or not take action. Then what they do is they engage in what's called resolution of concerns. Resolution of concerns. And so this is really getting their questions answered. Like, if we go this path, if we work with you, what are our concerns that need to be resolved? In sales world, we call those objections, right? They are resolving concerns about competitors. They're resolving concerns about a buy versus build opportunity. Like, what are the challenges, or how might this option fail? And so they need to resolve the concerns they have around each of the options that they've narrowed down to. And then fourthly, the fourth stage of the sale is implementation. And implementation is really part of the sale because, especially in the enterprise world, we know that many implementations can take months or longer to implement. And so even after, as a salesperson, you've gotten the contract signed, that's really just the starting point. That's not the end of anything. We don't close sales. What we do is we open up a new relationship. In fact, your customers will say to you, let's get started, right? So they know that implementation is really just the first phase of getting going with actually solving the problem. Everything else was just all of the baseline work that was required in order to get started with solving the problem, right? So these are the four stages of the sale. And so this is where it's important to now, once we know what the true stages of the sales are, what the true stages of the sale are, then we can start to map into these four stages where most people make the mistake of considering certain activities as stages, and more importantly, the mistakes that get made during these sales activities, which cause a deal to slow down, which cause a deal to stall out, which cause a salesperson to have to ultimately take what they thought was a qualified opportunity and move it into that dreaded long-term follow-up bucket, right? So the first activity that oftentimes gets mistaken as a stage of the sale is qualification. So again, if you look into your own CRM or other people's CRMs, a lot of times what you'll see is like, hey, I've got this call booked with a new lead. They're in qualified stage. They're in qualification stage, right? And the reason that that's a mistake, and some of the mistakes that happen during the qualification stage that cause a deal to stall out, that cause a deal to never really get off the ground in the first place, there's really kind of three main mistakes that I see out there. Let's see if I can get my iPad to cooperate. So 3 mistakes. So mistake number 1 is during the qualification stage, they actually demo the product, right? The whole point of qualification is to identify need. It's to do your customer discovery. It's not about the product. Everything should be about the problem and the customer situation to know even if you're able to solve that problem. And one of the reasons that a deal can stall and why this is a mistake in the sales process is that if we're showing too much product too soon, then either the buyer will mistakenly disqualify us because they had certain expectations as to how their problem should be solved, or we haven't unearthed enough about their problem to show them how our product can actually solve it. So then we end up with this mismatch where we could in fact solve their problem, but because we didn't know enough about what to show them in the demo, it appears that we're not a match. So that's one mistake that happens. A second mistake that happens at this stage is sending that dreaded one-pager, right? How many times have you had a qualification call and you talk to a prospect and they say, this looks really great. Can you send me a one-pager? Send me your deck. Send me a sample login so that I can check it out, or I can circulate it with the team, and then we'll get back to you. And this is obviously a clear case of a deal that's going to stall out because you've just spent however long on the phone with that person, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, learning about their situation. The next logical step would be to talk to other people in their organization and maybe show a product demo. How could a one-pager do any of that work for you, right? And so that's another reason why deals can stall out at such an early stage. And that's why I think it's a mistake to treat qualification as a stage. And then the third mistake we see is that we see one point of contact, right? There's that old saying, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And so in that qualification stage, the mistake that I see happen is that we get, as salespeople, get really excited. Okay, we have this person who's a director level at this organization, and they want to learn more about our product. And so we then use that one point of contact as our single point of contact, and that single point of contact ends up not having a full perspective around the problem. So instead, what we should be doing is mapping the organization, talking to multiple decision makers, multiple stakeholders, so that we get a full view of the problem and different perspectives of how that problem could be solved and how each stakeholder is thinking about the problem in order to know whether or not we are a good fit. So these are all the reasons why you need to have a way to maintain momentum in that qualification call. It's not about jumping to the demo quickly. It's not about how do I get a one-pager out. It's not about keeping excitement with this one person. Instead, it's about having control and having a plan on what should happen next before we let the buyer lead the buying process. Right? So that's the first place where I see a lot of deals stall out. The second is a second phase that I often see is demo. And you talk to salespeople and they say, "Yeah, I've got 4 opportunities in the demo stage right now." Well, demos, again, not a stage. Demos should be a catalyst from the needs analysis and customer discovery part of your sales process to making sure that you are one of the options that's getting seriously considered by your prospect. And there's a couple of mistakes that happen here in the demo phase or in this demo activity that I see a lot of people make. So the first mistake is they don't do customer discovery. So this goes back to getting really clear on who are the other decision makers, what are the other perspectives, what other ways have the company thought about solving this problem. And so this lack of customer discovery means that your demo is not going to be effective. Which brings us to the second mistake, is that the mistake that most people make in this stage is what we call the harbor tour. My friend Peter Cohan, who teaches his process called Great Demo, he talks about the harbor tour demo. You book an hour, you spend 58 minutes showing them a little of this and showing them a little bit of that, telling them why the buttons are blue and not red, talking about your integrations. This is how you set up an account. This is all the great functionality. Here's the dashboard. And at the end, you've given them the full tour of the product, but you've never really shown how your product is going to solve their problem, right? And the third mistake we see people make is they don't access all of the buyer types, meaning that those demos are oftentimes with that single point of contact, and they're hoping that person's going to then rally the rest of the team to do a second demo or tell them all about it. And instead, what we should be doing in those demos is getting all of the different buyer types, the technical people, the economic buyers, the users, the product champions, all the people that are going to be affected or can influence the decision into that product demo, so that we can have a clear collaboration and conversation about how your product is going to solve their problem. So these are all reasons why at the demo phase or in this activity, deals oftentimes stall out. And that's why if you're a salesperson or you're a startup CEO and you say, "I've got these 4 deals, I've done a demo, and now I can't move them to the next phase of my sale. Like, I'm stuck on this demo phase. I did the demo. They said they love the product, lots of fireworks, lots of applause, but now I can't get them back on the phone." Oftentimes it's because you made one of these 3 mistakes. And again, it's our job as one of the 9 sales accelerators that we're talking about here is we should have a way of knowing how to keep momentum through the demo, having a plan even before we crack open the laptop and start showing the product what the next steps should be so we can keep momentum going, right? How to answer questions in a way that where it's not all about who's the smartest person in the room, but using those as opportunities for future meetings, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So a third place that I see deals stall out is what we call the technical demo. Sometimes people call it demo 1 and demo 2, or the business demo and the technical demo. So maybe we've done a demo for a couple of people on the business team, and they say, "Well, look, we got to get IT involved. We got to get compliance involved. We got to get risk team involved." And so we do a second demo, a technical demo. And the mistakes that I see there in that technical demo is, number 1, is just expecting or sending the API, the dreaded API SDK send. So this is where we make the assumption that, well, we're just going to send them the documents and they're going to look at it and they're going to understand it. And oftentimes what that does, it just creates confusion, right? Because what we should be doing, the second mistake that we see people make is they fail to make this collaborative. The technical demo should be a collaborative conversation It shouldn't be, I'm going to send you my API keys and expect the person on the other side to know how to use them and how it applies to them. Because the third thing we need to avoid is this idea the mistake is being the smartest person. Like, you're not there to save people. You're not there to be the smartest person. Nobody cares you're from Silicon Valley. Nobody cares who funded you. Nobody cares that you built your platform in the latest tech. What people care about is the problem. And what people care about is job security. And what people care about is how much work is it going to mean if we take on this new platform and try to integrate it here. And if you sit there and you try to be the smartest person in the room, you try to answer every question, then all you're going to do is ostracize yourself. And this goes back to making sure that those technical demos are collaborative environments. So again, as part of one of the reasons that deals stall here is because we run into that technical demo, we walk out of there feeling like, oh, I answered every question. I sent them our wonderful APIs and SDKs, and I showed them everything and now they should see that this is the best solution for them. They should see how easy it would be to use, right? And that's why the deal stalls. Because you walked out of there feeling good and smart. They walked out of there feeling like they've got a lot of work, or frankly, that you're just arrogant. So you have to avoid these mistakes by making sure you know how to create collaboration, how to make sure that the deal doesn't stall in this phase. And then the last place that I see where deals stall is what we call proposal. A lot of times we see this. I've got 7 deals out or I've got 7 in proposal stage. I've got 3 proposals out. I'm just waiting to hear back, right? Well, the mistake is, number one here is that in that proposal, we did not talk implementation. So you didn't talk implementation. It's not just about price. It's not just about your product. It's all about how are you going to implement to make sure that your buyer gets the results that you're promising to them. The second mistake we see is that we haven't accessed what we call the economic buyer, the person who's writing the check. We're sending the proposal to the director level, and that person's going to run it up the flagpole to the CEO or the CFO or whoever else is going to pay for this. And we're just assuming that the proposal is going to do the work for us. And again, that's why deals stall out. That's why deals die at the proposal stage. And the third mistake that we see is we talk price before we talk return on investment, right? Because any number that you put on a sheet of paper, virtual, electronic, or otherwise, no matter if that price is $1, $10,000, $100,000, $1 million, no matter the price, no matter how much budget you think somebody has, it's a cost to them. It's a number until they're clear on what that investment means for them, right? So if you're hearing it's too expensive, we don't have budget, it costs a lot, what your prospects are actually telling you is I don't see the return on investment. So if we're just plugging numbers into a proposal and then creating some anchor price and crossing it out and then showing somebody you're giving them a 20% discount because we think we're giving them a deal, they're only going to look at the final number. If that final number isn't clear as to why that's an investment and not a cost, then your deal is going to die. So I want to call this to your attention because it's an opportunity for you to do some introspection around your own sales process. Like if your sales funnel is set up as stages of qualification, demo, technical demo, proposal, right? Then that should tell you what you've done is you set up your sales stages so that your deals are set up to stall. And instead, you need to, instead of thinking about what you are doing to the prospect, like you're the one that's qualifying, you're the one that's giving the demos, you're the one that's sending the proposal. It's not about you, it's about them and their buying journey. And in their buyer journey, they are first doing needs analysis, then they're evaluating options, then they're resolving concerns, and then they can move into implementation. So it's our job to map our sales activities into those 4 stages in a way that we're constantly keeping momentum moving, that we're able to answer objections and overcome those objections and work in a collaborative way with every person on the other side of the table, whether they're on the business team or the technical team. And thirdly, what we need to be able to do is make sure that as we're looking at the deals, no matter how good our mutual action plan might be, no matter how much we're doing a good job to keep momentum, we need to have a plan of action for when a deal does stall. Because deals can stall because people move departments, because of calendar years, as we're seeing over the holidays, because of exogenous shocks like COVID and economic slowdowns. So when those deals slow down and stall out, it's our job to be able to pull those back into flow, get those back moving again. And that's where having a process for selling is so critical, and knowing what those next steps are every step along the way, from stage to stage, meeting to meeting, and always knowing when the next step is in your sale. So that's the importance of having momentum maintainers. That's the importance of knowing what the objections are. That's the importance of making sure that you're always moving the deal forward by booking meetings from meetings, always proposing next steps, knowing that process for selling so you're not at the mercy of the buyer's process for buying. So if you do those things, if you avoid these key mistakes and instead focus on momentum, focus on a mutual action plan, focus on making sure you're getting access to all of the decision makers, creating collaborative conversations, focusing on problem, not product, then the net result for you is you're going to have a much more, what's the word I'm looking for? A much more consistent sales process. And at the end of the day, you're also going to have a faster sales process because there's not going to be a lot of stop and start. So that's Sales Accelerator number 6, Momentum Maintainers, Objections, Installed Deals Strategy. So if you made it this far in the video and you want to learn more about these sales accelerators that I just talked about at the top of this recording, we've put together a self-assessment of these 9 sales accelerators. So this is a live training that we ran for our clients just a couple months ago. And the way the self-assessment works is that each one of these 9 sales accelerators, there's a way to score yourself. How well are you filling your funnel? How well are you executing on your authority voice strategy? How well are you executing on your lead qualification strategy? All the way through these 9 sales accelerators. And with that self-assessment, all you have to do is watch the training, go through the scoring mechanism. We'll send you the workbook as well. And you can sit there and just score yourself, self-assess how you're doing with your company, with your startup across these 9 sales accelerators. So if you want a copy of that training, I'd be happy to just send you over a recording of that training and the workbook. Just type the word accelerators down in the comment below. And what we'll do is we'll pick up that message and we'll shoot you over an email with a copy of the recording and a copy of the workbook. And you can do your self-assessment across all 9 sales accelerators. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Next time we'll talk about Sales Accelerator number 7, which is why buy. We ended up in this conversation with making sure that price does not preclude return on investment. And what that really means is we need to show our buyers why they should buy from us. And if you do that properly, it will accelerate your sales, which is why it's one of the 9 sales accelerators. So why buy is Sales Accelerator number 7. And we're going to go through that next. In the meantime, if you want a copy of the self-assessment, just type the word accelerator down in the comments below. We'll get you a copy of that and get you on your way. All right, that's it for now. This is Scott Sambucci over at Sales Quality. Thanks for watching and signing off.